All right, so we have this JavaScript which is dynamically copying and pasting this on this table. But notice that it's copying the same content over and over, right? We have to fix that. So let's take a look at where that is happening, right? So it's happening in this JavaScript, right? Here's in the render user, it's iterating, it's cloning, it's removing the webdev hidden, and then appending the row to the body. Make sense? Before we append it, what we should do is to replace the usernames and the first names and whatnot. We should replace it with the actual data in each one of the objects, right? The username, the first name. So let's do that. Right, here's the clone, right? And we are transforming it. We're removing the class. Something else that we want to be able to do is grab the clone. Okay, grab the clone, and the clone looks like what? Looks identical to this row right here. Right, the clone looks exactly like this, right? This is what we're copying and pasting over and over, right? We want to take this clone and then go into this Ada here and replace it and put Alice, Charlie, Bob, Dan, right? First name, same thing. We want to change it to Alice, Bob, Dan, Charlie, whatnot, right? So how do we do that? Well, what we could do is grab the clone. Once we already have the clone, we want to navigate into the clone looking for an element, right, whose class is webdev username, and then webdev first name, and then webdev last name, and so on and so forth, right? And then replace their content and replace it with the actual data that is in the object. Right? So let's try and do that. I'm going to grab the clone. I'm going to try and find an element whose class is webdev username and its content, right? I'm going to replace it with the data in the user. Let's do that. So here's the clone. I'm going to find, right, the element whose username, whose class is username, and I'm going to replace its HTML content. I'm going to replace it with the user objects dot username. See that? All right, let's try that. Let's rerun it. Let's run it. There's our hello. And indeed, there's Alice, Bob, Charlie, Dan. Make sense? Right? And you would do the same thing for every single one, right? The first name, the last name, the role. And I'm going to leave that for you folks to do it on your own, so you can get to practice on that, right? But you would follow the same exact technique. Okay.